Welcome everyone, it's great to have you here. Good afternoon, and we are really looking forward to a great chat today with our country manager for Watu Kenya, Mr. Erick Massawe. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you today?
Very good.
Not too cold?
Not too cold. This is a really good weather by Arusha standard where I grew up, so I'm very comfortable in this weather, surprisingly.
Amazing. And yes, this is our debut episode of theVOX Fireside Chats, a series that will look to discuss leadership and other personal reflections from Watu's leadership. So, karibu sana, and let's get straight into it. So, for the first topic, I once heard the analogy that people are like soup, and over the course of our lifetimes, we add different ingredients. And what I wanted to particularly understand from you is when you look back at your earliest childhood years, what are those key ingredients from your early context that I should understand? Could be family, could be education, that have led to the man that sits in front of me today?
That's a very good question, and we'll start with two very short personal stories. Yeah. So this is summer of 2001, and I basically at break, school has break. At this point, I'm in secondary school. I'm in Form 2, and what I was doing at this point, I was basically wandering around. I grew up in Arusha, and there's a big hill close to our house. So I climbed the hill, went beyond the hill. There's a beautiful waterfall. I discovered it during that time alone. And I started to organize trip for my colleagues to go there and charge them.
And charge them, so you made a business out of it.
So I had a business out of that.
Okay.
And then 1 year later, again, summer of 2003, while everybody is busy preparing for, the national exams, etc., I am on a plane for free, heading to Zanzibar. I don't know what is Zanzibar, but how did this happen? I had a bicycle, so I basically created a program during this summer holiday that I will be going to the library every day. So I will study for 3-4 hours, and then I'll take my bike anywhere. And anywhere led me to airport. Arusha Airport by then was a very small, unorganized airport. So you could go interact with mechanics, touch the planes. I was really fascinated. 3 weeks later, I've built enough relationships that when they're testing the planes, they give me a ride. That is how I ended up on this flight to Zanzibar. So we flew to Zanzibar and back, and I went home. Everybody think I am coming from the library. Yeah. And, that was just the beginning of so many flights. Yeah, and really good relationships. Some of them I still have today, of pilots and mechanics that I met, by simply showing up at the airport every day after library.
Yeah. Did you tell your parents about this flight?
Much later. My mother was a very, very, very strict parent, super religious, so I could not disclose that.
So I'm picking up that from your early days, you were quite adventurous, into relationship building, quite entrepreneurial as well. And
taking a lot of risks.
Taking a lot of risks, okay, yeah. And who would you say had the biggest influence on you growing up?
My mother. My mother has a very humble and very interesting story. She grew up as an orphan. She was raised in an orphanage, made out of an orphanage doing business to the point that she became self-sustainable. And my story is funny because it kind of relates with my mother. Like at peak of her success as a businesswoman, she was actually exporting maize to Kenya. So now that I'm working and living in Kenya, she always say like, you are going after my tracks, right? And she was always there for me in terms of, personal guidance for different things, business guidance. She always encouraged me to, help her manage her business at a very young age. So for example, I was the accountant in one of her business. At this point, she was running a hair salon and 2 bars, and I was the accountant when I was in primary school, you can imagine. So she was always pushing me to do these things and, encouraging me to, make mistakes and learn from them, and, values that I operate with today. they're actually coming from my mother. Like, she was the very first person who was very, very persistent on the value of being honest. She said, even if it is a big mistake, no matter what, just be honest about it. Much later on, like 20, 25 years later, I am doing a very good coaching program with ex-Vodafone CEO for Europe, and he tells me the same thing. It's like, in leadership, you just need to be honest. So my mother has a lot of influence on me. Yeah.
And just to build on that as well, she's obviously a big businesswoman. So she had, you said, 3 businesses at the same time.
Yeah.
Did you find that she was still able to be like a motherhood figure to you as well as this great entrepreneur?
Absolutely, and that is the most fascinating thing about it, because she was a single mother and she was doing business and she was doing all of these things at the same time. Yeah.
Wow. Next up, we've got a question from our audience, from our colleagues who submitted a form before this interview. This first question is, if you ruled the world and could implement only 3 policies, what would they be and why?
I think number 1 would be free movement of people. I've traveled quite a bit. I love to travel, and I still don't get it. Like, there are so many restrictions, especially for us who are coming from the global south, to go anywhere in the world. I find it quite unpleasant that someone in Europe or America will decide to come to Kenya and they will book a ticket, and for a Kenyan to go to Europe or America, they will have to plan for 6 months and provide endless of information, fill mountains of paperwork without uncertainty, because you don't know whether you'll get a visa or not. So that will be number 1 for me. Number 2, I will try, and I know this is difficult, to bring the top brains to address the economic inequality, because I think, at country level, at individual level, at global level, this is a topic that deserves attention. And the third one, I think I will put forward a lot of effort to allow for global peace to prevail. Yeah. So I'll address, those 2 things.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next up, we'll take a bit of a pivot towards looking more at your career journey so far. So what would you say were the key milestones throughout your career that led to you being where you are today?
So I have an analogy for that, and this came through experience. The analogy is very simple. When you see water flowing down the river, it is never on a straight line. Yeah? It goes, hits a riverbank, changes direction, hits another riverbank, changes direction until it meets its destination. That is how my career has happened. It was not straightforward that I knew I will become a business leader. In fact, growing up and after building a lot of relationships with people at Arusha Airport, I was very clear that I want to become a pilot. And I did like 3 challenges. I became among the top 3. And for some reason, none of it worked for me to get scholarship to go into a flight school. And I was very good in biology and chemistry, and at some point I happened to believe that I could become a doctor, and I wanted to become a neurosurgeon after reading Gifted Hand by Ben Carson. Secured a scholarship to go to a very prestigious university in America, and it did not materialize for some reason last minute. And I started to volunteer from there. And I volunteered for 4 years, and I was volunteering with Dr. Jane Goodall Institute, to the point that I met Dr. Jane, became good friends with her, and gained a lot of exposure through JGI. I was able to work with Kofi Annan, for example. I met, a lot of global leaders through that initiative. And then I started to reflect, what can I do that will give me the same experience as volunteering? Because volunteering, you're not making money, but every day is a joy because you're doing something meaningful. Like I go to the village, either we teach farmers how to do sustainable farming practices, or we teach kids life skills, or we work with a group of vulnerable women and teach them about HIV/AIDS. And at the end of the day, you feel so good because you've made an impact. So this was a turning point, and I started to reflect on myself, and I'm like, what am I good at? So looking into that, it was very clear that I love to solve problems. I really enjoy to work with people, and I always emerge as a leader. You throw me in an activity anywhere, at the end of the day, I will be assuming some sort of leadership role. So at this point is where I was like, wow, actually for me, I definitely have to do something to do with leadership. And then I took a turn. I went to college, and I was actually pursuing a bachelor degree in accounting. Did a whole year, and then I dropped out. Yeah, I didn't find it interesting. I spent another year, and then I went back to university, and I did business.
At what age are you now?
Business management. At this point, I'm like 20 or 21. Yeah. So I did business management, and that is when I find like this is the place where I am. And while I was doing business management, I started a business, sold it, and that is how I financed my business. And fun fact. After selling my business, which was a culture tourism tour company, I invested in Boda Bodas. Yeah, like you go to Arusha, there's a particular place called Sanawari. It's a massive Boda Boda stage. The first 20 bikes were mine in that stage.
Wow.
Yeah. So things come
yeah,
back
full
at the
circle.
end of the day. Yeah. So I did very well, and thanks God, I excelled academically. I graduated top of the class, and then through experience that I had accumulated working as a tour guide, working volunteering, it so happened that I worked with someone who then left Tanzania, went back to America, took a job, left the job, decided to go for MBA at Oxford, met classmates, decided to start this company called Off-Grid. And this company called Off-Grid was basically founded by people who were on the same class with Mcopa. So same concept, same business model. This guy said, let's pilot this in Tanzania, and Jesse and others said, let's do it in Kenya. That's how Mcopa and Off-Grid were founded. So the name of the lady is Erica Twini. Erica founds me and be like, Eric, hey, how are you? And I'm like, it's just Erica returning to his age. She just wants to catch up. We had a very interesting space that we used to enjoy local food, cheap place. We called it, Space Cadet. So I was like, hey, do you remember Space Cadet? Let's meet there. And at this point, she's basically selling me the idea of off-grid electric. And I'm like, okay, I'm 3 months from graduating, why not? So in 2013, I joined this company. I was among the earliest employees. We never had an office. It was a tent. And 7 years later, Off-Grid Electric is operating in 8 African countries. In Tanzania alone, we have over 1,000 employees, and I am the managing director for Tanzania and Rwanda. So I started my stint there with, basically a sales role, recruiting agents, and then training them, doing sales and installation of Pico systems. Grew to a sales manager role, and then grew through the ranks to become the managing director for Tanzania and Rwanda. And then from there, I moved to Kenya, joined Mcopa, which was like a sister company. And even me joining Mcopa was a very interesting move, because in I believe it was 2015, I had hosted the foreign minister from UK, Grant Shapps. You may know this guy. Been even to his house.
Don't know him personally.
And long story short, he was so impressed with what we do, he organized for Africa Energy Campaign with an intent to raise 650 million euros. And big names like Richard Branson, several presidents from African countries was there. This is where I met a lot of business leaders and international leaders. And during that conference in London, I presented a very impactful session where we brought a customer and telling the story and how solar is changing her life, etc. And Jesse took an interest on me. So it took Mcopa 4 years of constantly reminding me that we really want to work with you before I joined them. So I joined Mcopa. And I joined Mcopa as the director of customer retention, and my job was to really design retention products and retention programs in Kenya and Uganda. I did that. Then I was promoted to be director of sales, and then I was promoted to become the general manager for Mcopa in Kenya, and then I joined Watu in 2022. So that's how it grew. Yeah.
And I wonder if you could share some insights of how it was like at Mcopa. I'm sure people would be interested to hear.
So at Mcopa, first and foremost, there was a bit of a culture shock. And interestingly, it is not culture shock on me because I had already worked in Rwanda at this point, so I am a bit, experienced to work in a foreign environment. And Zola or Off Grid was also a very, diverse company. So coming from Tanzania, everybody was worried, including Jesse, that, and also I have a soft voice. They're like, Tanzanians are very passive, you speak very soft. Kenya is very aggressive, and if people tend to be harsh or anything, just report back, we'll help you. Like kind of creating a very funny, comfortable environment for me to adopt. But midway through my probation, feedback was like, Erick, you're very direct, and people find it very surprising that a Tanzanian behaves like that. I'm like, that's really interesting, yeah. So otherwise, at Mcopa, I think two very important things happened to me. This was the first time that I actually was given a full control of a business that is operating at scale, because at this point, Mcopa's portfolio was like 2 times where I came from, but not profitable. So I was able to drive Mcopa into profitability within 1 year. And then number 2, I was given a mandate to establish Mcopa Kenya as a separate entity from Mcopa Group, because Mcopa was at the point where they were actually establishing group functions and opcos. So I built culture, and that was a very, very fun ride. I created a group that still exists today. It's called Culture Gang, and we had so many exciting engagement activities. One of my favorite was a campaign we called Kazi Yangu ni Muhimu, means your work matters, and we were filming people in different facets of their job, and it went viral within the company. Yeah.
Cool. And one other thing, I'd just like to rewind just a little bit, because I was very interested to hear you spent those 4 years volunteering early on in your career. Can you share like a bit more color on that time in your life, and perhaps like one special memory from this period of volunteering?
Yes, I would say one special, let me put the color of this. So there were a number of things that forced me to volunteer. One, I found myself in a situation where I never seemed to secure any scholarship, whether becoming a pilot or a doctor. Very frustrating. At family level, nobody understands me because I never applied for local universities, so I'm stuck. Everybody has gone to university, and I'm here hoping to go to America, right? And nobody seemed to understand and support that, from my mother, my sister, and other relatives. So it was a very strange situation where there was no support. Yeah, so that is one. And then number 2, I didn't have much other than my time and my knowledge to share. So I could not get a job really because I'm not qualified at anything, right? So at this point I was like, okay, let me try to do something useful with time and whatever I can do. That is how I ended up volunteering. Yeah, and the connection to or even to understand why volunteering, and fun, part of the reason why maybe I may be speaking a bit more English than the rest of Tanzanians, our family used to host international volunteers. So I grew up in a family which is a home to international volunteers from Peace Corps, from GSC. So that is when I started to understand that there's this thing called volunteering, and you can go and volunteer while you're figuring out things. So that is how I ended up doing volunteering. But it was so interesting that 4 years passed by without me noticing, like 4 years have passed and I'm just volunteering. Yeah. And one very special moment for me during my volunteering days, Yeah, this was basically a program that we are running to provide education for vulnerable women who are engaged in prostitution, etc., etc. And it was just another group of women we are training, etc., etc. And it happened to be a group that involved people with disabilities. So there was this blind woman who, after the training, we have to go through testing, and she turned out to be positive. And I was the one to break the news. And she took it very positively because she was like, this happened because I know that day when I was raped, definitely something bad happened to me, but I'll take it positive. And she was positive. I never lost contact with her. She's still alive. She has 2 very healthy kids. And for me, she's another source of strength. Imagine being blind, HIV positive, and have positive outlook for life. I always go back to her whenever I have challenges, and I'm like, Mama Betty can handle whatever she's handling. Like, who am I to say this is too difficult? Yeah.
I can see that's a very emotive topic for you.
It was a very emotional thing. You know, like, I spoke to her, consulted, and on the way back, I was basically in tears in a bus full of everybody. And I could not believe, like, how life can be so unfair to that extent. Yeah. But every time you talk to her, she's very positive. She has this amazing energy and positive outlook to life, like no one else you've ever met. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. To follow up that question, she was clearly a very influential person towards your life. Can you pick out a moment, perhaps outside of your career journey, perhaps a personal moment that you would consider to be sort of a life-defining moment, or a particularly impactful moment from your personal life?
So from my personal life, one of the things that I do for hobbies is to basically ride motorcycles. And that moment happened in October of 2021. I was riding my bike from Arusha to Nairobi, and I had a terrible accident at Isinya. For some of you may know that is in between Kitengela and Kajiado. And I was doing like easily 120 kph, and someone was about to hit me. So to save myself, I ended up riding on the shoulder of the road, but it was a gravel road, so I basically flew.
Lost control.
Yeah. So I passed out. And the moment I wake up, I'm in a hospital, small hospital in Isinya. My right knee is busted. I've broken 2 ribs. And I'm in a very, very intense pain. And this is when the guys are like, okay, calm down. You just had an accident, blah, blah, blah. And going through that moment and process, and actually reflecting on the possibilities, it was a life-defining moment in terms of, okay, really refocusing on what matters, and why it matters. And yeah, that was a life-defining moment. And interestingly, that led to something that is very, very interesting. So I go through, first aid at Isinya. I called in, I had a friend who organized for a taxi to bring me to Nairobi. I got proper treatment, and I go back to Arusha, and all my friends, some of them I've not seen in 20 years, came to my house without even telling me, we are coming. So it was a big moment of reunion, and we formed a group out of that. It's called LL21 because it was year 2021.
What does LL stand for?
LL is Loaded Legends, and we were like, okay, let's now basically start a common fund to do things for fun. We don't have to meet when someone has had an accident, etc., etc. And now LL21 is on its way to become a bank. Yeah, we have raised significant amount of money now. Even if I need financial support, I don't go to a bank for a loan. I'll just borrow from LL21. Yeah, so that is becoming a thing, and it is actually growing faster than all of us could believe. And we're very confident it will become either a microfinance bank or a full commercial bank at some point.
Yeah. That's like an amazingly positive thing to come out of a near-death experience.
Yeah.
How's the knee these days?
It's good. Yeah, thank God.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great.
But that underscores the importance of being protected, because I was riding and I was on full gear, and it was like really good. My helmet was shattered, but I never had any head injury. I had 2 broken ribs, but I didn't have any bruises, thanks to good quality safety gears. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got a question from the audience, again, submitted before the interview. This one is, there's a rumor that Mcopa was never the same after you left, and Watu has since outperformed them in Simu financing. Should we be worried about what happens to you after you leave?
Not true. and to be frank, this might sound a bit controversial. That is nowhere close to true, because Mcopa is a very scaled business, fully scaled business, such that no matter who left, I strongly believe it will continue. The same is true for Watu. At this scale we are, no matter who left, Watu will continue to exist. So basically what happened on the business side is the fact that by the time I'm leaving Mcopa, the business focus shifted, and this was a strategic decision. They were focusing on Nokia more. To Nokia, Nokia will be inferior. So that is what explains that dip in sales. And while at Watu we not only are financing a very strong brand, Samsung, but also we have a better, I would say, dealership model. At Mcopa, it's a vertically integrated business from assembly to sales, while ours is decentralized, and that gives a lot of opportunity to entrepreneurs. And in the market, we offer the highest margins. So no surprise, we are performing very well on that front. But that does not have anything to do with Erick. Yeah. And from a leadership perspective, it is a proud moment, if you're a leader, to leave a place and see your legacies is growing. So, for example, all the culture activities that I started, they're still ongoing. The business that I helped build of Simu still existing, and that is a proud thing for me. And it is such an important thing for a leader to be able to look back and see that your legacy still continues to live. Yeah.
And staying on that topic of leadership from previous role and this role, what would you say has been your biggest leadership lesson? Could be from success or could be from failure that you've learned so far?
I think the biggest leadership lesson has to do with authenticity. Be yourself and trust your instincts. It took me a long time, to be very comfortable to make decisions with very little or no information at all. Because the ideal scenario is you make a very well informed decision, so you have all the information around you, but that is not the reality of leading businesses. Like, you will be required to make calls, and some of these calls would be very important, such that if you make a mistake, it's going to be a big blow. But when you trust your instincts and be confident and be you, it actually works out very well. Yeah, so that's the biggest leadership lesson, I believe.
Could you give an example of one time where you learned how to be more authentic, or you learned how to take charge of a situation even when you didn't have perfect information?
Yes. So, for example, when you make a big decision, I'll give you an example at Watu, that it is time to pause on or to slow down on motorcycles and now move to finance smartphones, and endorse that decision or be part of that decision or propose that decision. This could basically mean the business is either going to grow or is going to stall. And at this point, there are so many variables. You may have all the information, but environmental factors that you don't have control may come against you. But believing that this is the right thing to do, giving it 100% usually works out fine. This is why we have 1.7 million customers today. Yeah.
And In the grand scheme of things, business can be quite cyclical. There can be good times, then there can be bad times. Would you say that you have to adapt your leadership style based on the context that you find your business in?
I don't believe in that. I think leadership is like a personality. This is you, and there's only one you, right? And approach is what would shift depending on the situation, right? But leadership is like a signature. This is like who you are.
I think that goes back to your point about authenticity,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So you can't fake it.
No.
Okay. Next up, delving a bit more into the technical side of leadership within Watu. At Watu, you are the country manager, but we also have the board of directors for the Kenya business. We also have the execs. How do you find navigating that entire situation with, I guess, that triangle of leadership at the top? Can you give some insight into that?
Yeah, maybe a bit of context for some of the people who may not have that exposure. You know, business operates by balancing interests from all the key stakeholders. Internal stakeholders are the group of people that we've said, you have your staff, you have the management, you have the board, right? External stakeholders, you have the investors, you have the regulators, etc., etc. It's such a delicate balance that needs to be maintained for all of these groups to get what they want, and for the business interest to always be there, meaning that, okay, if you are an investor, you definitely want to see this business successful so that we can repay back to you and you make profit on what you've invested. Different is for regulators, different is for the board. So the role that I'm doing as a country manager is to basically do that balance. It's think about it from a perspective of someone who is juggling like 5 balls and you don't want to drop any, right?
Yeah.
But this red ball has to go much higher than this yellow ball or much faster, and that is exactly what you do in terms of managing those relationships. But at the core, I am the one who drives the business objectives. So business objectives come first, and then how do you balance that with every key stakeholder? Because at the end of the day, if anything goes wrong, you will be held accountable. Yeah.
And just between me and you, how do you find interactions with the board and with the execs to work with?
I would say at Watu it's a very supportive environment. Of course there are dynamics because we are all people, regardless you're in the board, you're in the exec team, but very, very supportive. Like for example, if I need anything from the exec team now, I don't need to call anyone. I'll just post it on a WhatsApp group and I'll get approval, I'll get resources, I'll get advice. Yeah, just as simple as that. And the level of bureaucracy that almost does not exist allows for that, because in other environments you will have to write a proposal, you will have to schedule a meeting, and by the time you get that appointment, maybe time is no longer on your side. But at Watu, it is quite agile. I need support from anybody in the exec. I just post on the exec group, I'll get the support I need.
Yeah. I think that's a really great thing about Watu, that we have been able to maintain that sort of fast acting and less bureaucracy approach.
Absolutely.
That's great. Next question from our staff, from the survey they submitted. They said, your leadership style is focused, low drama, and results driven. First of all, do you agree with that?
I think that is a very good feedback. If that is what people see and that is what people felt, I am grateful, because the intent is that. And at core, my leadership philosophy is around a very simple analogy. We're a team. Think about any sports team. It's a number of people who are working or playing for the same objective, and who is their leader, the team captain, who is another player, right? So I don't believe being on the leadership team, I am this special human being, or I am the smartest, or I am the biggest. No, I don't think of it that way. I believe like I am the captain on the ground with everybody. I just happen to give directions for coordination purposes, but I'm part and parcel of the game, similar to how team captains do, and that is my role as a leader. Yeah.
So less Jose Mourinho, more Toni Kroos.
Yes. Although I'm a Chelsea fan, so Jose Mourinho may not be a good one.
Got you. And the second part to that question was, as Watu turns 10 this year, what is your vision for the next 5 years?
First and foremost, it is such a big milestone for Watu. And for me, this is the biggest success story ever. You know, I happen to celebrate 10 years anniversary at Mcopa, and the milestone was we're in Kenya, we're in 3 other countries, we are profitable. But at Watu, look at the story. It's from Mombasa to the world, yeah, because we are literally operating beyond the African continent. Maybe some of you may not know, but as we speak, we're actually expanding to 3 Latin American countries. And all of that started in Mombasa, and the impact that we've been able to drive throughout that journey is crazy in good ways. And most important, we've grown from a single category business to multiple category business, which is another, a very unique story. And I couldn't be much more happier, proud, and I genuinely feel like I'm very lucky to be part of that story. Yeah.
It's interesting because they say kuingia Mombasa ni rahisi na kutoka ni ngumu, but we managed to leave Mombasa. We managed to go to the world, so that's a success. Next up, a bit more, diving into a bit again your personal side. What is your escape outside of work?
My escape outside of work, I think, is usually in 3 things. So, some people see I'm usually very calm and measured, but I get frustrated sometimes. But when I get frustrated, you may not notice. So when I'm extremely frustrated, and like this is my escape short term, I will just get in the car and drive really fast. I am a very fast driver.
You didn't learn your lesson from the...
Yeah, so doing that allows me to focus on the road. When you're driving fast, you don't think about anything but the road, right? So in Nairobi, this is amazing because we have expressway. So I'll just pick any direction and then I'll go like, 150, 160, 70, right? And in that short span of 10, 15 minutes, I'm only focusing on the road and the car. I basically get to focus and, calm myself down. So short term, driving very fast to anywhere.
I think we should do a disclaimer. Do not try this at home, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Number 2, medium term to long term is to travel on my motorcycle. Now, I have a really interesting bike. It's a Honda African Twin 750, which you can take it anywhere. Even if you can ride it on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, your technical skills is what will get you there. So I normally take it for either long trips or technical trips around like really challenging roads if I have time. And also I enjoy hiking, in forest, in hills. So I'll do one of those things.
I'm seeing some flashbacks to yourself as a kid going to explore the waterfalls, and so you're still got that kid inside you. What's something about you that most people at Watu wouldn't guess?
So there are so many things. I'm a mechanic, I'm a chef, I can cook really well African dishes, I can do very good barbecue. In fact, my friends know me for barbecue. I am a painter. I've painted for fun. I've painted and sell those paintings. Some of you may not know, but Arusha is like the capital of tourism in Tanzania. So I did that because there was a market and platform. But
is that while you were doing your tourism business there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But something that is really funny that nobody at Watu could actually think about. Think about this. This was April of 2008. Disney World was celebrating 10 years anniversary. On that celebration, there was a parade of all Disney characters. I was the Mickey Mouse.
The main character?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely. Wait. So, tell us more about what was it like being Mickey Mouse?
It was really fun. Like I was in America for a conference, and thanks to Dr. Jane Goodall.
Yeah.
And Roots and Shoots is sponsored by Disney World. On the same year, Dr. Jane Goodall was nominated. No, was it nominated, or she was basically meant to be UN Global Messenger of Peace. Mm-hmm. So she was given exclusive rights at Disney World, mm-hmm. and she brought her crew, which is part of it was me. Mm. Yeah.
Was it hot?
It was not hot, but it was a big, cultural surprise. This was the first time in my life to ride on a roller coaster, for example. Mm. So it was like a completely different world. Yeah. But what was really fascinating is to go through the animal kingdom and go through safari. And at this point, I'm doing a little bit of safari, and we go there. There's a tour guide who is mimicking what I do for work. So it was a very interesting experience. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But from nowhere to become like a character for Mickey Mouse on the 10th Disney anniversary. I don't know if anybody could guess that.
No, absolutely not. And to wrap things up, one final question is around what advice would you give to yourself at ages 20, 30, and 40, sort of the do's and don'ts? Let's say you were giving advice to a child or your previous self.
Yeah. At 20, I would say don't doubt yourself, don't feel bad, because I was always doubting myself. I was feeling bad because everybody's at university, I'm volunteering here and there. Of course, I enjoy, but when I meet my school rivals and they're doing, their, degree of medicine, I'm like, am I lost, or is something right or wrong? So don't doubt yourself, enjoy the moment. 20s, 30s, I would say, really focus on what matters, because I became a father at the age of 28, and it took a long time for me to actually understand what it means to become a father. Maybe I was too young to become a father. And at 30, I would say, really focus where it matters, family, kids, spend time with them, build values, things like that.
How did you have to change when you became a father?
Well, it's a big moment for everyone, I believe, because this is the moment where not only it's a big bundle of joy that arrived to your life, and you see another human being that depend on you, looks like you, it's just special. I cannot describe it, but there's a big responsibility that comes with it, and part of that, because it's such an emotional thing, you may not do the right things because of emotions. So, for example, I learned the importance of respecting my kids' life. For example, I don't post my kids on social media. I don't give them my phone. But if they cry for the phone, you become emotional and you may give them. But by doing that, you're not helping. You're actually ruining. So, like, I'm of that kind of a parent. But it took time to process it all, and And speaking about fatherhood, there's a big highlight that I received yesterday. My daughter walked yesterday.
Oh, wow. Amazing. That's wow. What was that like?
It was a video from my son, and I was doing what was I doing? I was actually doing a meeting, and I saw this video on WhatsApp, and my son is like my friend, so I knew it's one of those events videos. So I waited, and after dinner, that is when I opened and I saw my daughter walking. That was really nice.
Amazing.
It was the highlight of the day.
Amazing. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Erick. I think we'll wrap things up now, but it was really a pleasure.
Yeah.
And for all those watching out there as well, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you spending your lunchtime with us. And please make sure to fill out the feedback form so that we can understand how to make things better for the next one. And wishing you all a very great rest of your week.
Thank you. And maybe one last thing that I would like to say. This is something that I try to embody myself. There's a quote saying, live simply so that others could simply live. Yeah, that is what I would like to leave the group with.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.